Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you all are doing great. In today's video, we are going to study a very important topic from the Elizabethan age, that is the university wits. It's a very important UGC net question, and this topic is extremely important for literature students, especially those preparing for UGC net, university exams, or any competitive exams related to English literature. So we will be covering everything from who the university was, which were, their characteristics, individual contributions, to important previous year questions. So make sure to stay with me till the end and take notes if possible. Let's begin. So who were the university wits? They were a group of playwrights from 16th century educated in the universities of Oxford and Cambridge. Right? Then the term university wits was given by George Saintsbury, and they laid the foundation. These university wits, they laid the foundation for Shakespeare's dramatic works. The major members include Christopher Marlowe, Robert Greene, Thomas Nash, John Lilly, George Peele, Thomas Lodge, and Thomas Kidd. So let's now see which schools they belonged to. Christopher Marlowe, Robert Greene, and Thomas Nash belonged to the Cambridge School. John Lilly, George Peele, and Thomas Lodge belonged to the Oxford School. Meanwhile, Thomas Kidd did not enter either of the universities but wrote in the same style. So, what were the common characteristics of the writings of university wits? They used blank verse, classical and heroic themes, a heroic and grand style of writing, use of rhetorical language, and tragic themes. Now we'll learn about these wits one by one. So the first one and the greatest of all is Christopher Marlowe, born in 1564 and died in 1593. So he was born in Canterbury as the son of a shoemaker and believed to have worked as a spy or a detective. He was a poet, actor, and a playwright, famous for using blank verse, referred to as Marlowe's mighty line by Ben Jonson. He was accused of blasphemy. Blasphemy means sinning against God or going against religion. And he died mysteriously in a drunken brawl after and orders for his arrest were given out. His death at the age of 29 in itself was a mystery. He was seen as the predecessor of Shakespeare in drama. Marlowe's mighty line is is the title attributed to the blank verse used by him. So now let's look at his major works. First one is Dido, the Queen of Carthage. It was written in collaboration with Thomas Nash and has 5 acts. Then we have Tamburlaine. It's a tragedy in 2 parts based on Timur, a ruthless conqueror. Let's read from your screens. Tamburlaine was a tragedy in 2 parts based on a Scythian shepherd, Timur, who was blinded by his lust for power. He was very greedy for power. The main character was Edward Allen, and Ben Jonson said, he famously said, that the whole restless temper of the age finds expression in Tamburlaine. So it's a very important quote. You can note it down in your notepads as. Then we have Edward II. It's a historical tragedy based on Holinshed Chronicles. Then Jew of Malta. This is this play has anti-authority themes and character Barabbas. Barabbas is the Machiavellian character. So it represents a Machiavellian man, Barabbas, who is manipulative enough to get what he wants. It's an anti-authoritarian play, and the prologue of the play, Jew of Malta, is spoken by a Senecan ghost. The last work we have, sorry, not the last, but the next work we have is Dr. Faustus. It's a tragic play based on the German legend that explores the theme of knowledge, sin, and power. An Elizabethan tragedy, which is based on German stories, and it's another blasphemous work of his. It has Christian theology as its dominant theme, and the sources of this work is the Faust legend and the English Faust book. The play features good and bad angels, 7 deadly sins, corrupting influence of too much power, and the work has autobiographical elements. The last one we have is Hero and Leander. It's an unfinished narrative poem later completed by George Chapman. It is referred in Bartholomew Fair as well by Ben Jonson. The next up we have is Robert Greene. He was born in 1558 and died in 1592. He was an autobiographer, a self claimed autobiographer actually, studied at both Cambridge and Oxford universities, and known for his prose pastorals. He famously criticized Shakespeare by calling him an upstart crow. His works include Pandosto, Mammalia, Manifin, Weep Not My Wanton, and the History of Orlando Furioso. Right? The next up we have Thomas Nash, born in 1567 and died in 1601. He was a pamphleteer and a dramatist, famous for his pamphlet collections, Pierce Penniless. First appeared in print through the preface of Manifin by Green. He published the first picaresque novel ever, that is, The Unfortunate Traveller, and he co wrote Dido, the Queen of Carthage, with Christopher Marlowe. He also co wrote another controversial play, The Isle of Dogs, with Ben Jonson. He was prosecuted for this play. The next wit we have is John Lilly. He was born in 1554 and died in 1606, and known as the first prose English stylist, and he developed prose dialogue. Then he developed his own literary style, also known as euphuism, known for the uses of alliteration, antithesis, and simile in accordance with nature and mythology. He is also known as the father of English comedy and believed to have written the first English novel. His major works include Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit, Kimpas, Endymion, Midas, Mother Bombay, and The Woman in the Moon. He died in poverty. The next up we have Thomas Lodge, born in 1557 and died in 1625. He was a versatile writer who experimented with several genres successfully. He later became a physician in his career. His work Rosalind was adapted by Shakespeare as You Like It. It was a pastoral romance and provides itself as a storyline for As You Like It by William Shakespeare. Students, you can make notes side by side. You can pause the screen and note all the important points. Prose, prose pamphlets. He also wrote prose pamphlets on social and political themes, including courtly love. He wrote medical texts later in his life. The next one we have is George Peele, born in 1558 and died in 1598. He was a translator, a poet, and a playwright, called the first professional writer, and notorious as well. He collaborated with Shakespeare in his work Titus Andronicus, and important works include Edward I, David and Bathsheba, King of England, The Battle of Alcazar, The Old Wives' Tale. The Old Wives' Tale is a comic romance. Robert Greene praised him as being in nothing inferior. That he said that George Peele was in some things rarer, in nothing inferior to Christopher Marlowe and Nash. Next up, we have Thomas Kate, born in 1558 to 159 and died in 1594. He was a neglected writer whose works had a lasting impact on this age. Though he was not a university student, he was part of the same dramatic movement. He was fascinated about classical texts and Renaissance. He wrote the famous revenge tragedy, The Spanish Tragedy, probably his best work based on human passions, justice, and moral dilemmas. Other works include Arden of Faversham, it was a domestic tragedy, and Your Hamlet, it is an early version of Hamlet that was written by William Shakespeare. Then Thomas Dekker, born in 1527 and died in 1632. He was a famous Elizabethan dramatist, and his works include Old Fortunatus. It was influenced by Renaissance. His works reflect the Renaissance spirit. The next one we have is The Shoemaker's Holiday. Lust's Dominion is a tragedy. Satyromastics, The Witch of Edmonton, which was written by Decker, Rowley, and John Ford, all together in a collaboration. The Virgin's Martyr, written in collaboration with Philip Massinger. Westward Ho, written with John Webster. So these were all the university wits. You can revise it while rewinding it once again. Yes. Then now we'll see some important previous year questions that have already featured in your exams. The first one we have is, who were the university wits? So they were educated writers who laid the foundation of Elizabethan drama. The next one we have is, which dramatic genre did the Spanish tragedy establish? The Spanish tragedy, the work, what was the genre of it? It was a revenge tragedy. Then, which university wit wrote controversial works? Which university wit wrote controversial works? It was Robert Greene. Then, what is a unique feature of university wit's plays? A distinguished characteristics of the plays of university wits, it was complex plots and structured rhetoric. Then Christopher Marlowe's contribution to literature. What was Christopher Marlowe's contribution to literature? It was blank verse and heroic themes. Then which element was used by the university wits to heighten dramatic tension in their works? Which element was used by the university wits to heighten dramatic tension in their works? It was Aristotelian dramatic principles and soliloquies. What is a revenge tragedy? A protagonist engages in a cycle of bloodshed and vengeance. Which factor played a crucial role in shaping the thematic content of the plays by university wits? Which factor played a crucial role in shaping the thematic content of the plays by university wits? Their university education and exposure to Renaissance humanism. So that was our complete lecture on University Wits, one of the most fascinating and foundational groups in English drama history. These writers were bold, experimental, and deeply influenced by classical literature and Renaissance ideas. And without them, we might not have had a Shakespeare. So if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And comment below if